Good evening. Pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, the Board Secretary caused notice of the meeting to be given to the public and the press on January 8th, 2018. Mr. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Cornelison?
Here.
Mr. Donner? Mrs. Gamarikian?
Here.
Mr. Miller?
Here.
Mr. Munoz? Mrs. Rubin?
Here.
Mrs. Shanis?
Here.
Mrs. Turnbull?
Here.
Mr. Silverstein?
I move to suspend the rules of the order of business of the regular meeting and adjourn to closed conference session for reasons contained, matters of personnel, right? That's what it is.
Well, it's a superintendent evaluation.
Oh, for the superintendent evaluation. Thank you, Matt.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Miller, seconded by Mrs. Cornelison. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
I move approval to reconvene to the regular meeting agenda of the Board of Education.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Miller, seconded by Mrs. Cornelison. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? We are back and open. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Communications.
Just a few items. New Jersey School Board Association, for Union County School Board Association, they have put out a call for officers. They need applicants, and if you wish to apply, it needs to be done by December 31st, if interested. New Jersey School Board Association I just did that one. Reflections from the Executive Director, December 11th, thoughts on regionalization and the path to progress. That was part of your packet. New Jersey School Board Association, the weekly program update from December 6th and 11th. They're both part of your packet. New Jersey School Board Association School Board Notes, December 5th and 12th. They were part of your packet. Garden State Coalition of Schools, News and Notes, December 3rd. That was part of your packet. National School Board Association, National Connection Daily, December 3rd through December 14th. They were all part of your packet. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
I move to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of December 3rd, 2018.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Miller, seconded by Mrs. Gamarikian. Any discussion on the minutes? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Mr. Vito, Superintendent's report.
I have one announcement regarding the varsity ice hockey team. They captured their fourth win in a row last evening versus Edison High School. That gives them a four-game winning streak, and their next game is Wednesday, the 19th, versus Lacey Township High School at Warrenanko Rink at about 8:50 p.m. So if you want to take a look at a up-and-coming ice hockey program, certainly give it a shot. So that'll be Wednesday, and congratulations to them on a four-game winning streak. Good for them. And that's really happy holidays, everyone.
Is that it?
All right.
I move to accept and approve the superintendent's report as presented.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Miller, seconded by Mrs. Gamarikian. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The superintendent's report is approved and accepted. Before we get to public input on agenda items, I want to add one other item to the agenda. It is I was going to say it's a bittersweet meeting, but it's only sweet for you guys. It's bitter for the rest of us. Meeting for us tonight as we say goodbye to two board members, Robin Cornelison and Jackie Shanis. I'll go in reverse order of seniority. Robin is finishing her second term, her sixth year on the board, and when she stepped up to become president a couple of years ago, telling tales out of schools now, not last year, it's almost 2 years now, when you came up, there was quite a bit of discussion about whether she should be president, and there was a board member who felt very strongly that she shouldn't. And I am so glad that the other 8 of us convinced you that you were wrong, and that that you were the right person for the job. Because
a little bit to do with it.
that's true. That's true. but it was I know, a much more difficult year than was advertised to you. And let's face it, that's how we got you to serve. But you served with a grace and made sure that everybody was heard, not only felt heard, but was heard. And it was an incredibly difficult time. And this board and this community owes you a debt of gratitude for doing that. Not to mention the other 5 years that you've been here. You will be greatly missed. I will greatly miss you. So in recognition of your years of service, we're presenting to Robin Cornelison with sincere appreciation for your outstanding contributions as a member of the Springfield Board of Education 2013 to 2018. Tilt it down. Tilt it down.
Take a good picture.
Thank you.
Oh wait, pass that down now. That I can guarantee.
I'm not gonna say, I'm gonna let Jackie say everything. But I do wanna say, thank you so much for, Scott, you're the one that recruited me, so it's your fault for everything.
I will gladly take that.
I know, you take the blame all the time, but I do wanna say thank you. I have learned an immeasurable amount of things being on this board, and I've only been on 6 years, so I can't imagine what Jackie's going to say. But I do want to say thank you. It's been a pleasure and an honor to work with everybody around this table, and Mr. Davino, I've learned so much. So I appreciate you guys, and I know our schools are in great hands. I really do. I feel like I'm proud to say that I'm from Springfield. I'm proud to say that my kids, go to school here. I just, thank you guys so much. So that's it. Short and sweet.
Just to follow up, and we have some previous board members who served as board presidents during some interesting times, shall I say. And you got the honor of joining that group. I know how much you came into that position a bit hesitant and questioning, and I said, don't worry, I'm going to be sitting right next to you, and if you have any questions, we'll get through it, etc. You really didn't need as much help as you thought you did. And you handled some very difficult meetings and attacks, if you will, with professionalism and a lot more substance than I think you even thought you could bring to the table. You were very successful, and I'm very appreciative of your support and your ideas and your thoughts. You've brought a lot of ideas that many people do not realize have been implemented in our schools, programs that you vetted and we worked through, and some we didn't, but I appreciate your input and your professionalism as an educator, and I do think that the town and this Board of Education will miss you sincerely.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So nice. Oh, I'm not going to cry.
Was there anybody? Oh, right.
Good old what's her name?
I don't know. I mean, where do you start with Jackie? I asked Matt for some stats earlier today, and he's the numbers guy. So Jackie was first elected in April 1991 and has served as president 4 times and vice president 4 times. She served with 4 superintendents and had a hand in selecting 3 of them, right? And she served with 35 different board members around this table, several of whom are here tonight. To give you some perspective, the students who will be graduating from this school in June would not be born for another 10 years when Jackie first joined the board. George H.W. Bush was president. Bill Clinton was
The late
George
H.
He should rest in peace. Bill Clinton was governor of Arkansas. George W. Bush was still the president of the Texas Rangers,
I think he was getting drunk.
and Donald Trump was still on his first marriage and had not yet filed his first bankruptcy. So it's been a long time. No one is, you like to say no one is irreplaceable, but if anybody is, it's Jackie to this board. Jackie, you, in addition to the knowledge that you bring to this board, the institutional knowledge that you bring in terms of how things happen and why they happen, and just as you shouldn't ever make a decision that, well, we need to change the way we're doing things because we don't like this, or we need to keep doing things because we've always done it this way, we've always been able to turn to Jackie and say, well, why do we do it this way? What was the decision? The answer is usually, well, we tried it a different way and it didn't work, and here were the reasons. And I honestly don't know how we go forward losing that. We have to find a way, and I know where you live, so I know we'll be able to to still call on you. But I can't overemphasize how important that is, and how much I've relied on it, and I know the other members of the board had. Your judgment, your knowledge, the relationship that you've built with the Springfield Education Association, and that we only obviously want to build on, but the level of trust that you've built with the unions. They know that when they call you and you get to resolution on an issue, that your word's good, and that it's going to get done. And it will be difficult, to say the least, for the rest of us to try to fill all the gaps that you're going to leave here. I mean, almost 28 years is a long time, and it's time that's been well spent. And I don't know what this community would have done for the last 28 years without you. You think of the things that wouldn't have gotten done: the deregionalization, building the expansion at Walton, the field here and at FMG, and those are just the visible things. I mean, it doesn't even go into multivariable calculus, which I don't understand to begin with. So I don't know what to say other than thank you, and I really don't know how we do this on January 7th without you sitting there. And we will have to either figure it out or have Jeff put you in the rig and bring you back down, because I really don't know how we do it without you. And I know that I don't want to, but you said no, you weren't running again, so we don't have much choice. But did I have it's kind of an understatement at this point, but presented to Jacqueline Shanis with sincere appreciation for your outstanding contributions as a member of the Springfield Board of Education, 1991 to 2018.
That means Jackie was on the board when I graduated.
Thank you, I heard that.
More importantly, get the better-looking guys in here to take a picture with them. Matt. Get those guys in. They're the more important ones.
I was pregnant with Matthew when I ran the first time.
You were on the board when I graduated high school.
Thank you, Hillary, that's just what I wanted to hear.
Which you graduated from Dayton.
Yeah, exactly. She was sitting up on that. She was at my graduation.
Jackie's good work right there.
Is that my graduation? That's insane. On me. It's great.
The two on the end are smiling. That guy in the middle, he's like, really?
I just found out I lost my Monday night.
Your Monday night poker game is just out the window.
Thank goodness. Things are going on.
Well, Robin asked me when I sat down tonight, did I write anything? And the answer was no, because I really was hoping to sort of fade out into the sunset.
Yeah, like that one.
But I do want to thank the community first for allowing me to serve them for this period of time. We did a lot of very, very good things for this community but for the deregionalization and the board who went through that process, this building would be boarded up and not be a high school anymore. So Springfield would have lost its high school. So every time I walk in here, that's something that I will always remember. I also want to thank all the boards. I didn't know there were 35 members. That I know, that's funny. That I've served with through the years, because without you, we couldn't have done what we did. And, you know, there's a lot to still do, and I have every confidence in administration and this board that the progress will continue. And I want to thank, you know, the administration, because we've worked hand in hand for a really, really long time. And through good times and through not so good times, and always came out on handling things the right way, doing the right thing for the community, whether or not everyone realized it at the time. Perfect example are the one-to-one laptop program. The fact that we weathered that and are all still unscathed for the most part is amazing, but it's something that really has set us apart. And the proudest moments I've had is going to meetings with other boards of education, and all they want to know is, how do you do what you do with the money you have and we can't figure it out? I still laugh when I hear people trying to figure out full-day kindergarten. I don't get it. I just don't get it. So I just really want to say thank you to everyone. Your kind words, Scott. You know, it's been a pleasure to serve with everyone, and thank you.
And I get to say the last word. I remember 14 years ago when I took this blind shot to apply for the superintendency. And I remember a woman from school boards, what was her name? Carol, who said to me, listen, you know, you have an impressive resume, but you have to understand, coming out of New York the way you are, the chances are really slim that you'll even get an interview. We'll put your name in, we'll see what happens. And the process started. And as I went through each phase, I hadn't really understood the implications at that point. And Carol would call me up after one of the interviews and say, they want you to come back again. She goes, this is getting interesting. And then when I know we were down to the final two, and she called me up, she arranged the date, and I knew at that point that I had the second date. And she said to me, good luck, everybody here is pulling for you. And I met with the whole board that night in a very comfortable setting, which I was kind of surprised that we even get to that point, because I remember the previous interview where they hit me with a question, one or two questions, about how I would handle something. And I had known as a resident of New Jersey how this was popping up in some other communities. And I said, you know, you got to tell them what you're going to do, because you want them to hire you for who you are and not what they're going to tell you to do. And I told them exactly what I would do, and that that's how I would handle it, and it didn't matter to me what the board thought. And we then had our dinner the next night, and I'll never forget the phone call, February 27th, in my office at Petrides, and it was Jackie calling me to tell me that they wanted to offer me the position. And I accepted immediately, although I did tell her I had to call the chancellor first, because he was offering me a job centrally, and I didn't think I was going to take it anyway, but I wanted to give him the opportunity to at least make me an offer, which he never did, because the mayor didn't approve the funding line. And we just sat down then, and it was about negotiating my contract. And that went relatively easily. We flew through that. And then the education of Michael Davino, superintendent, began. I promised that board when they offered me the job that this would be my last job. It was a 3-year, 3-month contract. And I actually didn't understand the whole contract process or whatever. I thought that would be it. Obviously, there were contracts to follow, and I still maintain that promise. When asked to leave this position, the likelihood of me taking another position is infinitesimally small. I love this community. I love this board. I love the support. And from the beginning, I learned. We ran into our first roadblock. The board asked me to do a couple of things. They said, number one, could you bring back football? Because the co-op had been crushed by some people who really didn't have the best interests of Springfield at heart, but only their own best interests. And so they crushed our co-op program. They asked me if I could bring the one-to-one laptop initiative, which is what I had made a reputation on in New York. And I said, as long as you support that, I certainly can, but it's going to take some work. Little did the board know, little did I know, the outcry that would result in and the political fallout that came as a result of that. And this board, from the very beginning, stood their ground, dug their feet in the sand and said, you can cut the budget, you can do whatever you want, but we're going to have this initiative. We're putting whatever money we have into this initiative, and we did. And so with those two pieces as the centerpieces, we weathered some very difficult times. We put up a building that we never thought we were going to be able to put up at Walton. We got through that and some very interesting times. And at each stage, there were different board members and different presidents. And to speak to what Scott said, the organizational history that Jackie brought out and the private meetings, several of which were held at my house.
Very late at night.
Late at night, at some difficult times, with difficult issues that we were facing, where a couple of times I was ready to resign, and they clearly talked me out of it. And one time when I was clearly recruited by another district and I felt that I owed the board the honesty of letting them know that I was recruited, but I also told them I hadn't handed in an application and that I would let them know very shortly. And about a week later, I let them know I'm not even sending in an application. And that's because of the support and the guidance and the leadership of Jackie and her fellow board members who worked as a team. You know, the board meeting may end or the committee meeting may end and they would go their separate ways, but you could tell that there was communication going on and they made sure that that communication facilitated everything that we as an administration were trying to do. They accepted my redesign of the school system, and we did redesign the school system then. The board had to take on the redistricting, probably the easiest redistricting I've ever seen. When you hear about the redistricting that takes place in other districts and it's a mess, we had our problems, but we weathered that with minimal difficulty. We opened up a new school. We went to work on a variety of initiatives over time, and this board has always supported the administration in its efforts, and I am eternally thankful for all of the guidance and the history. Jackie would call me and say, in her inimitable way, have you heard this? I go, no, what did I? Well, I'm hearing this. And I'd say, Jackie, I have to know where it's coming from because this, well, let me explain it. And in her own way, she would explain it. I'd know exactly where it was coming from. She retained the level of professionalism that she always retains. And I have to say that I'm personally going to miss your knowledge, your guidance, your support. And as I made that promise, I'm telling you, this is the last job I'm ever going to hold. Thank you for what you did. Thank you for bringing me on. And I am eternally indebted for your search process that brought me to Springfield.
And the one thing just that I have to also thank is I have to actually thank my father-in-law, because the one thing that Carol from New Jersey School Boards Association didn't know is my father-in-law was very, very high up in the New York City school systems and knew just about everyone. So as soon as I saw a New York candidate, the first thing I did was call him and say, so I have this resume, what can you find out? And within 15 minutes, I had anyone I needed to talk to about Mr. DeVino. So it really was very, very helpful, and we had a very, very good picture of what we were getting as a superintendent and the leadership that it would provide in transitioning a district at that time and really trying to fortify and strengthen our high school and our programs. So it's been a pleasure working with you. You knew how to get a hold of me if you need institutional knowledge. But other than that, I'm sure the district is in fine hands with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you get your sons back? I mean, they were really important to us.
We're going to let them go up and see the balcony, though.
Well, the one thing Mr. DeVino was wrong about is he does not get the last word. It's time for public comment, and I do see some public that probably wants to comment.
All right.
Public input on agenda items, which will include everything that we've talked about thus far tonight. If anybody'd like to come up and speak, give us your name and address. And Linda, I take full responsibility for starting at 7:34. I apologize.
There is an open seat at the end. On the side.
Christy,
can you start?
Side button, bottom button.
There you go.
I don't know if I can deal with this newfangled technology. They all let me go first because they know I talk the most. Jackie, I always taught my students to speak from notes, not to read their prepared speeches. But I did not always take into consideration the speaker might be emotionally invested in what he or she had to say. So please excuse me as I address the board for the record and the community to publicly thank a unique woman for her service to our students. The name Jackie Shanis is synonymous with integrity, hard work, and dedication. No one has worked more diligently for a longer period of time to support the students of Springfield than Jackie. I even checked out there, Natalie Walt only put in 25 years. Jackie first ran for the board when she was pregnant with her eldest son, Matthew. And as you can see, he has become a fine young man in his own right. When I first met him and his younger brother, Andrew, they would often spend time in the media specialist's office watching videos and doing homework while board members met in committee. Then Jeff would appear, for he was commissioned to arrive from work and take them home for dinner. So as you can see, Jackie's service to the board has been a family affair for more than 27 years. I sincerely thank all of the Shanis family for their sacrifices during that time. Jackie and I first met during the deregionalization process over 20 years ago, and admittedly, we were on opposite sides of the issue. Although skeptical of each other in those early months I was on the board, Jackie was one of the early board members to accept me and to come to respect my small measure of expertise when it came to high school students. We quickly came to realize that we both had a common goal, a superior education for Springfield. Although our backgrounds are very different, we amicably served together for 12 years on the board through some of the more difficult years of inter-board tensions, but also through some of our proudest hours. We became the first school district in the state of New Jersey to have the one-to-one laptop program. And as they have referenced that was quite a fight. Our students continue to lead the state in technology and its beneficial uses. We expanded the Walton Early Childhood Center to include pre-K through second grade. And the day before Labor Day, the board was there in their shorts and t-shirts moving furniture. We expanded our programs to include pre-career courses in culinary arts, theater arts, and technology programs. And our students consistently excel in the arts, athletics, as well as academics. We even decided on the longevity of the roof on Jonathan Dayton Regional High School. When it became Jonathan Dayton High School, that was a big issue back then. Do you go for 25 years? You go for 35 years. Our forward thinking gave you 35. Jackie has been instrumental in fostering all of these programs for the Springfield School District. Many, however, are unaware of Jackie's work behind the scenes. She has served as the board's chief negotiator for the majority of her terms on the Board of Education. She has successfully navigated some difficult issues and recently has negotiated 2 win-win contracts with our local association. She has been satisfactorily able to mediate between our various negotiating sectors, the professional staff, the secretaries, the clerks, the aides, the bus drivers, keeping in mind our educational needs and our budgetary restrictions. And all of this was accomplished without spending taxpayer monies for professional attorneys. These accomplishments are no small task. She has also been the liaison between the board and our administrative staff and forged many of their contracts as well. Jackie has served as the chair of the last 2 superintendent search committees. Good luck. Her patience, expertise, and wisdom will be sorely missed in the coming years. However, the greatest loss to the Springfield Board of Education and our community is Jackie's sense of integrity. She is a woman of principle. She will fight vehemently for what she believes in is right. She has rationally presented her views and often swayed fellow board members' opinions with her sage advice. I, for one, learned so much about educational law, board policies, fiduciary responsibilities, and boardmanship. I will be eternally grateful for her mentorship, but more importantly, for her friendship. To those newly elected board members, I regret that you will not have Jackie's expertise or sage advice from which to learn. But I wish you well, but please recognize the shoes you must fill are very big. Jackie, I wish you a very happy return to your family. May you enjoy home-cooked meals or dinners out. I suggest that. Good books, sitting with your feet up on every Monday night. But please save a night every now and then to have dinner with me and other board members and friends who want to say thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Godspeed, dear friend. Enjoy your first round of retirement.
Hello, board members. Scott Szymanski, 18 Sharon Road. I've been in that chair with a lot of you, and I'm going to try to be brief because I know you all have lives. One of the things that I've been pushing in a lot of discussions I've had on a much broader scale are term limits. This is the reason why you don't always need term limits. Jackie, I want to thank you, not just personally, but on behalf of my family, because Springfield is a better community because of you. When you do things like volunteer and put so much of yourself out there, it's not for any type of fame or some gain. It's about commitment and making a difference. And you made a difference in so many people's lives. And for those who don't know, Jackie has a job too, a pretty important one that takes up a lot of her time, as if her family doesn't take a lot of her time. And she's here all of those hours for those many years. Scott said it well, as far as being irreplaceable. I guess we're all replaceable to some extent. I don't know how we replace you, but again, thank you for your commitment. Thank you for your tireless effort, and thank you for making this community a better place to live in. Thanks again.
Hello. Ad Venezia, Warwick Circle, Springfield. It's so good to see all of you. It looks very small. I don't know why. No, but this. Anyway, so I served with Jackie for 15 years, and I actually can say I agreed with Jackie on most things, except every year we bickered about the start date, the cutoff date for children entering the school district.
Vote on that in favor of you on a night I was not.
So you waited for me to leave? I mean, I never understood that December.
You guys taught us well.
I never understood that December, and Jackie bickered with me every year. We both had children born at the same time in the fall, and we just didn't agree. So we used to take it to, what was the name of that committee that never met? Yeah, TEB, with the teachers and the board. And some agreed, some disagreed, but Jackie and I agreed on most things. Jackie's talents are many. And I have to say, when you're on a board for a long time or anything for a long time, there are some bad times and there are some great times and there are some good times. And the bad times and the bad people dim. What you remember most are the good times, the good people, and the great things. And I have to say, Jackie her greatest talent was being able to tell someone they were a complete idiot without them knowing they were a complete idiot. She had the most eloquent, politically correct way of not that she's ever called you that in any way, but there have been people that have walked away from this podium and sat down and said, "Did she just tell me I'm a jerk?" And we're like, "Yeah." But they had no idea because she has such a great way of expressing herself and patience, the patience of a saint. So you all are going to miss her, I know. I don't miss her because I see her, but you look like you're in great hands. I know some of you, and I hear great things about you, so carry on. Bye.
Tony, you better learn to operate the.
Yeah, nope, he had it. There, you good.
Oh, okay. I just want to reiterate everything. Tony Delia, 39 Norwood Road. I'll see you January 7th on that side. I don't know why. But all I can say is I want to reiterate everything that the prior board members had said. I served almost 8 years with you. And to say that it was not only an honor and a privilege, it was a huge learning experience. I learned how boards should be run, should conduct themselves, and how they should handle the tough situations. And for that, I'll be eternally grateful. I wish you were still on with me coming up because, like everyone said, there's no filling your shoes. There just isn't. Your experience, your professionalism, and just the way you can take someone and teach them and mentor them, it's amazing. You're in the wrong profession. You should have been a teacher because I learned so much from you almost effortlessly. You'll be missed, and I want to just say thank you.
I know you want me to move on, but I'm just going to make sure there's nobody else out there that just...
Just one thing. Ms. Cornelison, thank you very much as well. Really, because I don't. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you all for your comments. You've said it better than we ever could. Now on to the more mundane and much less interesting portions of the meeting. Mr. Donner, can you call finance?
Yeah, he's not here.
Not here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It is
Mr. Miller.
I
I
got
was
it.
looking
I
at
got
you
it.
and reading this. Sorry.
Yeah, I'd like to.
See, and what
move-
am I going to do when Jackie's gone and I'm not going to get
to
that right?
correct you, right? Yeah. I'd like to move items 1 and 2 with a roll call vote, please.
Moved by Mr. Miller, seconded by Mrs. Gamrican. Any discussion on these? Mr. Clark, will you call the roll?
Mrs. Cornelison?
Yes.
Mrs. Gamarikian?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Rubin? Mrs. Shanis?
Yes.
Mrs. Turnbull?
Yes.
Mr. Silverstein?
Yes, motion's passed. Thank you, Mr. Miller.
I'd like to move school government items 1 through 8 with a roll call vote, please.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Miller, seconded by Mrs. Gamrican. Any discussion on these? All right, Mr. Clark?
Mrs. Cornelison?
Yes.
Mrs. Gamarikian?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Rubin? Mrs. Shanis?
Yes.
Mrs. Turnbull?
Yes.
Mr. Silverstein?
Yes, motion's passed. Mrs. Cornelison, Buildings and Grounds.
I'd like to move motions 1 and 2 with a roll call.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Miller, second by Mrs. Cornelison, seconded by Mrs. Gamrican. Matt, can you just bring us up to speed on where this puts us with these two projects?
Yes, PA clocks and bells, they've been operational. We're at the punch list stage. We still have some monies left. We still have a training that we have to get through. That hasn't happened, so we're expecting that. I think Ron tried to schedule that for this week, if I recall right. I don't have it on my calendar because I can't attend.
It's training for staff.
For the staff who will go ahead and be, not all staff,
For the ones
for
operating
the
that classroom.
administration and, well,
No, this is on the
no,
bells
this
and
is on the
clocks. On the
bells
bells and clocks.
and clocks. So that training, once that, then they can turnkey it back out to all of the staff. The second is the engineering room and the dance studio. They're both open. They opened up earlier this week for actually both rooms. Engineering room, they're done. We were able to get in on Friday, but we needed tech to get in, set up the computers that we have, get the room set up. So that took about a half a day. Monday morning, they got it done, and they're up and running. That was last week. I'm sorry. I keep forgetting today's Monday. So it's up and going. We have punch list items. We have a couple touch-up area items, but otherwise, I think the kids are loving it. I heard Mr. Davino mention it in school government to the committee that the teacher still is on cloud 9. He hasn't come down, hasn't floated down. Yep. Another piece, thanks to Jackie and her wisdom, for us continuing with a lot of our building projects, because she was behind really the impetus of us being able to go ahead and start generating funds, staying under 2%, and being able to go ahead and take the funds and make them dedicated to bettering the lives of our students with the upgrades and updates and the refreshing of our buildings. And this is just another one of the examples.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Mrs. Cornelison?
Yes.
Mrs. Gamarikian?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Rubin? Mrs. Shanis?
Yes.
Mrs. Turnbull?
Yes.
Mr. Silverstein?
Yes, yes, motion's passed. So, Mrs. Shanis, will you call sports?
I move motion 1 with a roll call vote.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Shanis, seconded by Mr. Miller. Any discussion on continuing
Yeah,
co-ops?
I just wanted to point out, this is an extension of our existing co-op agreement with David Brearley High School in Kenilworth for our wrestling, gymnastics, and swim teams, and with Brearley and Union High School for our ice hockey program.
Right, tri-op and hockey.
All right, a tri-op, exactly. And I believe it's a 2-year agreement? Is
Yes.
it? Yeah, it is a 2-year agreement.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Clark?
Mrs. Cornelison?
Yes.
Mrs. Gamarikian?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Rubin?
Yes.
Mrs. Shanis?
Yes.
Mrs. Turnbull?
Yes.
Mr. Silverstein?
Yes, motion passes. Back to open public session. Anybody that wants to make sure that Jackie and Robin don't leave any sooner than is absolutely necessary is invited to come back to the podium and filibuster. No, if anybody that wants to address the board on any topic, now is the time. Seeing none. Moving to new business, just wanted to thank the students and the staff for the wonderful FMG musical production Friday and Saturday night. I lost count, but I'm fairly certain it's the largest cast that I've seen on stage. There were animals coming from every direction, up the aisles, down the aisles, in from the sides. And as always, Mrs. Bowers and Mrs. Hernandez and their stage crew and resident animal wranglers did a great job. The kids sounded great. They looked great. So great job by all of them. I also attended the Samar PTA meeting last week. Folks should have either last week or maybe this week your PTA meetings coming up. I should point out everything for January will stay the same in terms of committees and PTA responsibilities. So if you're on a committee now and it's going to meet Matt puts out a notice that it's going to meet January 7th. The committees will all stay the same until after the reorg, when Matt will put out the list again for people to indicate interest in different committees. So if you have PTA meetings in the end of December or beginning of January, continue obviously. To the extent that there are committees that need to meet that Jackie and Robin sit on, we will get notice out to who the alternates will be for those committees. Anybody else have anything? Anyone? I will take a motion.
To adjourn.
Second.
Moved for the last time by Mrs. Shanis and seconded by Mrs. Cornelison. Any discussion? Anybody else want to talk about them? All right. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.